When evaluating the validity of hadith, Muslims look at the character, ethical principles, and public behavior of the narrators. On your screen is an academic source and a popular level source, both illustrating these points. However, when looking at the character, ethical principles, and public behavior of Muhammad, one can't help but notice an inconsistency. After all, why is the character of a hadith narrator so relevant when you accept Muhammad as a true prophet, given that Muhammad is consistently portrayed in authentic hadith as unintelligent, untrustworthy, and repulsive? But before we get to the hadith, let's start with a story that's been suppressed due to modern Muslim apologetic concerns. In his Princeton PhD dissertation, Shahab Ahmed said, "This study concludes that the Satanic Verses incident constituted a standard element in the historical memory of the Muslim community in the first 150 years of Islam, and was recorded by almost all prominent scholars working in the fields of tafsir and Sirah Maghazi. Further, the Prophet's own characterization of his error is remarkable for its choice of words. I have obeyed Satan and spoken his words, and he has become a partner in God's matter with me." The use of the verb sharika immediately associates the Prophet's error with the concept of shirk, the cardinal sin of sharing partners with God. And in a later monograph, the Satanic Verses incident constituted a standard widely circulated, that is, no less than 50 historical reports, and generally accepted element in the historical memory of the Muslim community on the life of Muhammad in the first 2 centuries of Islam. In other words, the universal rejection of the Satanic Verses incident by Islamic orthodoxy today represents the rejection of something that was held to be true by early Muslims. According to dozens of early Muslim reports, Muhammad couldn't tell the difference between a revelation from Allah and a revelation from Satan. Wow, that's embarrassing. And supposedly it's all about character and trustworthiness for Muslims when it comes to evaluating their sources. However, unlike a hadith they don't like, they can't simply discard Muhammad. So instead, modern Muslims have to deny this incident ever happened. Let's look at another example that calls Muhammad's character seriously into question. Muhammad was bewitched, predictably by a Jew according to some traditions that describe the story. Apparently, Allah couldn't protect his prophet from Satan's influence. Thankfully, Muhammad was able to break the spell by appealing to magical means himself, at which point he was freed from the spell which had caused him to believe he had engaged in certain sexual acts when he actually had not. Muhammad was also suicidal. After Waraka died, Muhammad didn't have anyone else to teach him his apocryphal gospels so that he could mistake them for the actual gospel in the Quran. Muhammad was so sad that he tried to jump off some cliffs several times. Let's move now to Muhammad's knowledge and character in other areas. Muhammad believed that breastfeeding a grown man would reduce sexual tensions, making it safe for unmarried people of the opposite sex to be alone together. Muhammad believed that drinking camel urine was an effective cure for sickness. He also believed that if you drank his urine, you would never get a stomachache. However, sometimes urine was bad. Muhammad believed that if you failed to clean yourself properly, you get tortured in the grave. Muhammad believed that one wing of a fly contained a disease and the other wing contained the cure. If you don't have a disease-curing fly wing, don't worry. There's healing for every disease with black cumin, which is a common household spice. If magic or poison is your problem, Muhammad has you covered. Just take some ajwa dates and you will be immune from both. Keep in mind that the number of dates a person can eat and process may vary because believers have a different number of intestines than unbelievers. Muhammad believed that the sun sets in a spring of warm water. Muhammad thought that shooting stars were missiles hurled at jinn who were listening in to the heavenly council. Muhammad believed that Adam was 60 cubits, or about 90 feet, 27 meters tall, when he was created. Muhammad believed that Satan would fart so that he wouldn't hear the call to prayer, that Satan sleeps in your nose, and that oversleeping was proof that Satan had urinated in your ear. Muhammad believed that a child would resemble whichever parent discharged first during sexual intercourse. Speaking of discharges, Muhammad himself was very concerned about cleanliness, even letting his child bride scrape dried semen off of his clothes. Other times he was not so worried about cleanliness or venereal disease because he would sleep with all of his wives in one night without bathing until it was all over. Speaking of intercourse, Muhammad had intercourse with a girl so young that she was taken from a swing set with her dolls for the event. She is frequently described as an immature girl in Muslim sources. But Muhammad did not like all girls. In fact, he ordered 2 girls who used to sing satirical songs about him to be executed. Not limiting himself to his wives, Muhammad also had intercourse with his slave girls because they were his property. Not limiting himself to his wives or his slave girls, Muhammad also married the former wife of his adopted son. Muhammad said women are the majority of hell, in part because they lack common sense. Aisha, Muhammad's child bride, commented that Muhammad put women on the same level as dogs and donkeys. But remember, a person's character and trustworthiness must be taken into account when evaluating Muslim sources. But Muslims, does what you just heard sound like a trustworthy person of good character and sound mind? No, the person of Muhammad as described in the Muslim sources has become largely indefensible in the modern world. Now let's turn to the Qurans and the character of some of the transmitters of the canonical readings. Shadi Nasser starts us off with Hisham bin Ammar, who transmitted the Syrian reading.
Hisham bin Ammar, he is the canonical rawi of the Dimashq reading, of the Syrian reading. It says that when he got older, he became senile. And he started to read and recite anything that was given to him. He would repeat and transmit anything people told him without inquiring about its truth. But he was more trustworthy when he was younger. Okay. Now, Hisham transmitted 400 fabricated hadiths. In Arabic, ليس لها أصل. With all apparently good isnads. A man by the name of Fadlak, his name Fadlak al-Razi probably, used to give these fabricated hadiths to Hisham, who did transmit them, and due to which he almost created a rupture in Islam. Hisham was dictating hadith one day when he was asked, "Who gave you this hadith?" He answered, "One of my teachers." When he was asked again, he yawned, closed his eyes, and from sleepiness. And Muhammad bin Muslim al-Razi said, "I decided to stop narrating hadith of Hisham because he used to sell hadith." Ahmad bin Hanbal, the famous jurist, said Hisham was fickle and frivolous. One day he was sitting in public while his private parts were visible. A man told him, "Cover yourself." Hisham responded, "Have you seen it?" God willing, you will never go blind in your life. So he had a sense of humor. Ibn Hanbal said one must repeat the prayer if it was led by Hisham.
Hatun from DCCI has been able to acquire 7 different readings, all claiming to be based on this Hafs an-Nazm recitation. That is the standardized Quran that's used in the vast majority of the Muslim world. But what do the Muslim sources say about these characters? What do the sources say about Hafs? And what do they say about Azm?
Talked about Hafs an-Asim. Let me read also for you. And this is, again, Hafs an-Asim, the standard and canonical, again, version of most Muslims today. It says that Ahmad bin Hanbal said that his hadith, the hadith of Hafs, was not to be transmitted. Ibn Ma'in stated that he was not trustworthy, while Al-Madini, those are all hadith critics, said that his hadith was weak and should be abandoned. Al-Bukhari said the hadith transmitters abandoned Hafs's hadith, tarakuhu, and An-Nasa'i confirmed that his hadith must neither be learned nor written down. Other critics said that all his hadith were manakir and bawatil in Arabic. They were all fabricated and they were all forged. Not only was he untrustworthy in hadith, but it was reported that his colleague Shu'bah was more reliable than him in Quran. And then we have some reported that Hafs was a better reciter than Shu'bah, but he was a liar, kadhab. And this is Hafs. So this is how Hafs is, was depicted in biographical information. Same with Asim. I will not also read that, but I have a very beautiful quotation here from someone who said, anyone whose name was Asim had bad memory. So if your name is Asim, it means you can't memorize things. And again, this is the most important canonical rawi, i.e. transmitter of the Quran.
Indeed, we have some questions for Muslims.
The same comments, we have these kind of derogatory comments in the biographies of what we call the canonical readers. And again, the question is why Muslims still thought it was okay to transmit the Quran, which is the most important document, of course, in Islam. Why they still trusted Hisham, and why they trusted Hafs, and why they trusted Asim.
So let's clearly articulate the hypocrisy. When Muslims encounter hadith they don't like, they'll find some reason to discard them. Now, frequently, they'll use criticism of a narrator in the isnad to do so. However, when it comes to the Qurans, criticisms of the canonical reciters abound in Muslim sources, yet Muslims do not question the authenticity of the canonical readings. So Muslims both do and do not critically examine hadith and Qurans. They will pretend to apply critical scrutiny to hadith in attempt to discard hadith that impugn the character or reliability of Muhammad, but they can't apply that same methodology to the transmitters of their Qurans because it would seriously call the canonical readings into question. And doing that as a Muslim can have serious consequences. Thanks for watching.